Jataka 1. The Apanaka Jataka, the story of the two caravans. Imagine the world as it was in the very beginning of the ages, a world where time did not move with the ticking of a clock, but with the slow, inevitable shifting of the shadows across the forest floor. We are beginning our journey in the kingdom of Kosala, near the ancient city of Savath. The air here is unlike any air you have ever breathed. It is thick with the scent of damp earth, of crushed jasmine, and of the ancient, towering trees that have stood guard over this land for 1,000 years. We are walking along a path made of soft silver sand. Every step you take is silent. The sand yields beneath your feet, cushioning your weight, absorbing the sound of your movement. As you walk, you feel the coolness of the late afternoon air beginning to settle on your skin. It is a gentle coolness, like the touch of a soft linen cloth. It brushes against your forehead, your cheeks, and your hands, inviting you to let go of the heat and the busyness of the day. Ahead of us lies the Jetavana Monastery. This is the garden of Anathapindika, a place where peace is not just a feeling, but a physical presence. Imagine the great gates of the monastery. They are made of heavy, dark wood, polished by the hands of thousands of seekers. They stand open, welcoming you into a world of profound stillness. As you step through the gates, the sounds of the distant city, the calling of vendors, the clatter of carts, the barking of dogs, all of it begins to fade. It becomes a low, indistinct hum, like the sound of a hive of bees in a distant field, until finally it vanishes altogether. In the center of the monastery there is a grove of banyan trees. These trees are massive, their roots hanging down from the branches like the tresses of a giant's hair. They create a canopy so thick and so green that the sunlight can only filter through in small, dancing patterns of gold. These patterns move slowly across the ground, tracing the shapes of the roots and the stones. Inside the grove, 500 men are seated. They are sitting on the ground, and I want you to imagine the sensation of that earth beneath them. It is not cold, nor is it hot. It is perfectly tempered. It is solid. It is supportive. These 500 men have spent their lives running. They have run toward wealth. They have run toward fame. They have run toward different teachers who promised them that the truth was something you could catch if only you ran fast enough. But today, they are not running. They are sitting. The followers are silent. There is no talking. There is no whispering. There is only the sound of 500 people breathing together. Listen to that sound. It is like the sound of the tide coming in and going out on a distant, pebble-strewn shore. A slow, rhythmic rise. A slow, rhythmic fall. In and out, in and out. The Buddha sits at the front of the grove. He is not a distant figure, but a warm, grounding presence. His skin is the color of burnished gold in the twilight. His eyes are closed, yet he seems to see everything. He understands the exhaustion you carry in your bones. He understands the way your mind jumps from one thought to another, like a restless bird in a cage. He sits in a posture of perfect balance, his hands resting in his lap, his shoulders broad and relaxed. He begins to speak. His voice is not loud, but it carries to the very back of the grove. It is a resonant, melodic sound, like the vibration of a great bronze bowl when it is struck softly with a wooden mallet. The sound of his voice travels through the air, touching every leaf, every stone, and every heart. He tells the followers that they are like travelers who have lost their way in a great desert. He tells them that the mind is often tricked by the mirages of the world, the promises of easy wealth, the illusions of quick success, the false maps drawn by those who do not know the way. He says that to find the true path, one must learn to look at the stars, to listen to the wind, and to trust the water they carry within themselves. To help them understand, he begins to tell the story of the two caravans. As he speaks, the grove of Jetavana begins to dissolve. The banyan trees fade into the mists of memory. The cool air of the monastery turns into the warm, spicy air of the city of Benares, many thousands of years ago. Imagine the city of Benares. It is a city of stone and light, built along the banks of the sacred Ganges River. In the early morning, the river is covered in a soft, white mist that looks like a blanket of silk. The water moves with a heavy, liquid grace, swirling around the wooden pilings of the docks. You can hear the rhythmic slap of the water against the stones, a constant, hypnotic sound that has not changed since the beginning of time. In this city, the preparation for a great journey is taking place. There are 2 merchants, each with 500 carts, 500 wagons. Think of the scale of that. If you stood at the front of the line and looked back, the last wagon would be so far away it would be nothing more than a speck on the horizon. We look first at the carts of the wise merchant. These are not merely vehicles, they are the result of months of careful labor. Each cart is made of seasoned teakwood, a wood that is heavy and dense and smells of the deep forest. Imagine the grain of the wood, the swirling patterns of dark and light brown, the small knots where branches once grew. The wheels are massive, reaching as high as a man's chest. They are bound with thick hoops of iron, hammered into place while the metal was still glowing red from the forge. The axles of these carts have been greased with the finest oils. Imagine the smell of that oil, rich, heavy, and earthy. It ensures that when the wagons move, they do not scream or groan, but glide with a steady, low hum. Inside the carts, the goods are packed with a precision that is almost meditative. There are bales of muslin, thousands of them, stacked neatly in rows. The muslin is so soft and so thin that it feels like nothing in your hand. There are jars of ghee, sealed with thick layers of beeswax. There are sacks of peppercorns and cloves, their sharp, warm scent filling the air around the wagons. The wise merchant walks among his carts. He carries a small wooden mallet, and he taps each wheel, listening to the tone. A clear, ringing sound means the wheel is sound. A dull thud means it needs attention. He is not in a hurry. He knows that every minute spent in preparation is a mile gained in the desert. He speaks to his drivers, men who have been with him for many years. Their voices are low and calm. They share a cup of tea, the steam rising in the morning air, smelling of charred leaves and honey. Now we look at the young merchant. His part of the square is filled with a different kind of energy. It is the energy of the storm. His men are shouting. They are throwing crates into the wagons with a loud wooden thud. The oxen are nervous, their ears twitching, their tails swishing at the flies. The young merchant is pacing. He is looking at the sky, counting the minutes until the gates open. He is thinking of the markets in the far-off lands. He is thinking of being the first to arrive. He is thinking of the gold coins he will count when the journey is done. He sees the wise merchant and approaches him. The young merchant's breath is short and fast. "If we travel together," he says, "the road will be ruined. 1,000 carts will turn the dust into a waist-deep mire. The oxen will find no grass to eat, for the first 500 will strip the earth bare. The wells will be emptied before the second group can draw a single bucket. We must separate. One must go first, and one must follow." The wise merchant looks at the young man. He sees the tension in his jaw. He sees the way his fingers twitch against his belt. The wise merchant smiles, a slow, gentle movement that reaches his eyes. "Which do you choose, my friend?" the wise merchant asks. "Do you wish to take the lead, or do you wish to follow in my wake?" The young merchant does not hesitate. He thinks he is being clever. He thinks he is taking the prize. "I will go first," he says. "I will have the fresh grass. I will have the clean, undisturbed water. I will have the pick of the camping spots. I will arrive at the market while the prices are still high and the buyers are still eager." The wise merchant bows his head. "Very well," he says. "The lead is yours." The young merchant turns away, shouting for his drivers to mount their seats. Listen to the sound of the departure. It is a grand, overwhelming symphony of movement. 500 whips crack in the air, not to strike the oxen, but to signal the start. The oxen lean into their heavy wooden yokes, their muscles ripple under their thick, cream-colored coats. The wagons begin to move. First, there is a loud collective creak of wood protesting against the weight. Then, the wheels begin to turn. The iron rims bite into the dry earth of the city square. A great cloud of golden dust rises up, obscuring the sun, coating everything in a fine, warm powder. The caravan stretches out like a long, slow-moving river of wood and bone. It takes an hour, 2 hours, for all 500 carts to pass through the city gates. The sound of the wheels is a constant, rhythmic drumming. Creak, thud, creak, thud, creak, thud. It is a sound that settles into your bones. It is the heartbeat of the journey. As the last wagon of the young merchant's caravan disappears into the haze of the horizon, a profound silence returns to the city gates. The wise merchant does not move. He stands in the shade of the gatehouse, watching the dust settle. He knows that the desert does not care who is first. The desert only cares who is wise. He waits. He waits for the road to recover. He waits for the grass to grow back, strengthened by the passing of the first group. He waits for the wells to refill their deep, subterranean chambers. He waits for the moon to enter its next phase, for he knows the stars will be his only guides in the weeks to come. Imagine the wise merchant's own departure days later. It is a much quieter affair. There is no shouting. There is no cracking of whips. The wagons move out in a steady, disciplined line. They move with the grace of a slow-moving stream. The wise merchant sits on the lead wagon, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. He is not looking for the end of the journey. He is looking at the moment he is in. He feels the swaying of the wagon. He feels the warmth of the sun on his shoulders. He hears the breathing of the oxen. They move through the fertile land surrounding Benares. They pass through groves of mango trees, their heavy green fruit hanging like jewels from the branches. They pass through fields of rice, where the water reflects the blue of the sky like 1,000 mirrors. The air is sweet here, smelling of ripening grain and wood smoke. But as the days pass, the green begins to fade. The trees become smaller, their bark turning gray and papery. The grass becomes sparse, turning into dry golden stalks that rustle in the wind like paper. The earth changes from dark, rich soil to a pale, sandy dust. They are reaching the edge of the waterless waste. This desert is 60 leagues across. A league is a long way when you are moving at the pace of an ox. 60 leagues of sand, 60 leagues of silence, 60 leagues of heat. In the desert, the sun is a tyrant. It rules the day with an iron hand. No living thing can move under its gaze without suffering. So, the merchants do not move by day. When the sun rises, they park their wagons in a great protective circle. They unhitch the oxen and lead them into the shade of the carts. They spread thick, wet cloths over the water jars to keep the precious liquid from evaporating. They huddle in the shadows, their bodies heavy and still, waiting for the king of the sky to abdicate his throne. Imagine the heat of the desert day. It is a physical weight. It presses against your chest. It makes the air shimmer and dance, creating phantom lakes and ghost forests on the horizon. The sand becomes so hot that it would blister the soles of your feet in a moment. You lie in the shade of the wagon, listening to the silence. It is not an empty silence. It is a silence filled with the hum of the heat. It is the sound of the world vibrating. But then the sun begins to set. The transition is slow and beautiful. The harsh white light of the noon turns to a deep, burning orange. The shadows of the wagons stretch out across the dunes, long and thin, like pointing fingers. The sky turns from orange to pink, then to a deep, bruised purple. And then the first star appears. It is the North Star, the navigator. It is a small, steady point of blue-white light. One by one, the other stars join it. The Great Bear, the Hunter, the Weaver. The sky becomes a vast indigo velvet, studded with 1 billion diamonds. In the desert, the stars are so bright and so close that you feel as if you could reach up and pluck them from the sky like fruit. The wise merchant gives the signal. The caravan wakes up. The oxen are hitched back to their yokes. They low softly, a deep, resonant sound that carries for miles in the clear night air. The land pilot takes his seat at the front. He is an old man with eyes that see in the dark. He does not look at the ground. He looks at the stars. He knows the angle of the constellations. He knows that as long as he keeps the navigator over his left shoulder, they will move in a straight line toward their destination. The night march begins. The sound of the caravan at night is a lullaby. The wheels move through the sand with a soft, continuous hiss. Shh, shh. It sounds like the wind in the pines. It sounds like a long, slow breath. The wooden frames of the wagons creak gently as they sway over the dunes. Creak, creak, creak. The bells on the oxen's necks chime with a low, silver tone. The men walk beside the wagons, their footsteps muffled by the sand. They do not talk. They are in a state of moving meditation. They watch the moonlight reflecting off the backs of the oxen. They watch the shadows of the dunes. They breathe the cool night air, which is as crisp and clean as a mountain spring. This is the rhythm of the desert, the stillness of the day, the movement of the night, the guidance of the stars, the preservation of the water. But in the middle of this waste, there is a danger that has nothing to do with heat or thirst. There is the danger of the heart. There is the danger of the illusion. The young merchant was the first to face it. He was on his 3rd night in the desert. His men were tired. They were beginning to grumble about the weight of the water jars. They were beginning to wonder if the wise merchant was right to be so cautious. The young merchant was frustrated. He wanted the journey to be over. He wanted the ease he had promised himself. Suddenly, the land pilot called out. "Look," he cried, pointing toward the horizon. Coming toward them, through the shimmering silver light of the moon, was a carriage. It was a sight that should not have been possible in the middle of a 60-league waste. The carriage was made of white wood and silver, and it was pulled by 4 bulls that were as white as a cloud. Their hooves did not sink into the sand. They seemed to glide over the surface. Inside the carriage sat a man who looked like a lord of the forest. He wore robes of deep emerald green, and, most strangely of all, his clothes were soaking wet. Water dripped from his sleeves and pooled on the floor of the carriage. He wore a wreath of blue lotuses on his head, their petals heavy with dew. Behind him, a group of attendants followed, all of them wet, all of them carrying bundles of dripping water lilies. The young merchant halted his caravan. He was transfixed. He saw the wet clothes, he saw the flowers. He saw the mud-caked wheels of the white carriage. The lord of the forest spoke. His voice was like the sound of a trickling stream in a hidden valley. "Why do you toil so, friend?" he asked. "Why do you burden your oxen with these heavy ceramic jars? Why do you travel so slowly through the heat?" The young merchant stepped forward. his throat dry and dusty. "We carry water," he said, "for the waste is 60 leagues wide, and we have many nights yet to travel." The Lord laughed, a sound like silver coins falling onto a silk cloth. "The waste?" he said. "The waste is behind you. Did you not see the dark clouds on the horizon? Did you not feel the change in the wind? Just ahead, less than a league away, the forest begins. The rain has been falling there for 3 days. The grass is so thick the oxen can barely walk through it. The ponds are overflowing with water so sweet it tastes like honey. Look at my clothes. Look at my flowers." He pointed back the way he had come. "Pour out your water, merchant. Lighten your loads. Why carry a burden when the earth is ready to provide? If you empty your jars, your oxen will run like the wind, and you will be resting in the shade of the great oaks before the sun rises." The young merchant looked at the clouds, which were really just banks of mist and dust. He looked at the wet lotuses. He did not look at the stars. He did not look at the wind. He allowed his desire for ease to blind his wisdom. "Break the jars," he shouted to his men. "Pour the water onto the sand. We shall travel light and fast. Imagine the sound of it. 500 jars, each holding gallons of life-saving water." The men, eager to be rid of the weight, took up their hammers. Crack, smash, shatter. The ceramic broke into 1,000 pieces. The water gushed out. For a moment, it turned the sand into a dark, rich mud. It smelled of coolness and life. And then the desert drank. The sand swallowed the water in a single, thirsty gulp. It was gone. The young merchant laughed. The men laughed. They felt light. They felt free. They whipped the oxen into a gallop, racing toward the forest that the demon had promised. But they traveled 1 league, and there was no forest. They traveled 2 leagues, and the sand remained as dry as bone. They traveled 3 leagues, and the moon began to sink. The air did not turn cool. It turned hot and stagnant. The clouds on the horizon vanished, revealed as nothing but the empty air of the waste. The sun rose. The heat hit them like a physical blow. The men, who had splashed their faces with water only hours before, were now parched. Their tongues began to swell. Their eyes grew red and sunken. The oxen, driven to a gallop without water, began to collapse. One by one, the great beasts fell into the sand, their sides heaving, their eyes rolling back in their heads. The young merchant stood in the center of his ruined caravan. He looked for the white carriage, but it was gone. He looked for the lord of the forest, but there was only the shimmering heat and the vast, uncaring silence of the dunes. He realized then that he had been tricked by a Jātaka, a demon of the waste that feeds on the foolishness of men. The day passed in a blur of agony. The men huddled under the wagons, but without water, their bodies began to fail. When night fell again, they were too weak to guard the camp. And in the darkness, the demons came. They did not come with swords. They came with the inevitable end of those who throw away the truth for a lie. By morning, nothing remained of the 500 carts but the wood, the bone, and the shifting sand that began to cover them. The dust has finally settled in the wake of the first caravan. The city of Benares has returned to its rhythmic ancient pulse. In the courtyard of the wise merchant, the atmosphere is not one of haste, but of a deep and settled preparation. The sun is beginning to rise on the morning of his departure, casting long, golden fingers of light across the stone floors. The shadows are soft and long, stretching out like dark velvet ribbons toward the eastern gates. The wise merchant moves among his 500 wagons. He does not rush. He walks with a slow, measured step, feeling the cool stone beneath his feet. He approaches the first wagon. He reaches out and places his hand upon the sideboards. The wood is old and strong, seasoned by the seasons of many years. He feels the texture of the grain, the ridges and the valleys of the timber, and he appreciates the strength of the tree that gave itself to this journey. He checks the hemp ropes that bind the cargo. He feels the roughness of the fibers against his skin, smelling the faint, earthy scent of the sun-dried rope. He pulls at a knot, ensuring it is firm, ensuring it is true. The oxen are being led into their positions. These are magnificent creatures, their coats the color of fresh cream and heavy smoke. They breathe with a deep, sonorous rhythm. In and out, in and out. You can hear the air moving through their massive lungs, a sound like the distant surf of a calm ocean. Their large, dark eyes are clear and peaceful. They do not worry about the desert ahead. They do not worry about the miles. They only know the weight of the yoke and the presence of the man they trust. The wise merchant speaks to each pair as they are hitched. His voice is a low, grounding murmur, a vibration that settles the spirits of the animals. He strokes their damp noses, feeling the warmth of their life force, a quiet connection between the traveler and the beast. Then there are the water jars. The wise merchant stands before the rows of ceramic vessels. These jars are heavy, made of thick red clay, and fired in the great kilns of the riverbank. They are cool to the touch, holding the life-giving liquid in their dark, hollow bellies. He inspects the seals. He looks at the thick beeswax that has been poured over the lids to keep the moisture in. He knows that every drop of this water is a promise. He does not seek to be light, he seeks to be prepared. He knows that the desert is not a place to be fought, but a place to be respected. He ensures that every wagon carries its full measure, for he trusts the water he has more than the rain he might hope for. The departure is a slow unfolding. There is no sudden crack of a whip. There is only the soft rhythmic calling of the drivers. The caravan begins to move. It is a slow, heavy motion, like the beginning of a tide. The wooden wheels turn. The iron rims meet the dust. The sound is a deep, resonant thudding that vibrates through the earth. Creak, thud, creak, thud, creak, thud. It is a hypnotic sound, a pulse that will accompany them for 60 leagues. As the 500 wagons pass through the city gates, the bells on the lead oxen chime. It is a soft silver sound, a clear note that rings out in the morning air, signaling the beginning of the long, quiet march. Days pass. The green fields of the city are left behind. The mango groves and the rice paddies fade into the distance, replaced by the scrubland and the dry, parched earth. The air changes. It loses its sweetness and takes on the scent of dry stone and heat. They reach the edge of the waterless waste. The horizon is a flat, shimmering line where the earth meets the sky in a haze of golden dust. The wise merchant halts the caravan. He does not look at the desert with fear. He looks at it with a quiet, observational peace. He waits for the sun to sink. As the sun begins its long descent, the sky turns into a masterpiece of color. The whites and yellows of the day melt into deep ambers, then into burning oranges, then into the softest, most delicate purples. The heat begins to lift, replaced by the first cool breath of the night wind. It is a wind that smells of nothing, a clean, empty wind that has traveled over 1,000 miles of sand. The wise merchant gives the signal to move. In the desert, the nights are a world of their own. The moon rises, a great silver shield that turns the dunes into hills of frozen light. The shadows are deep and black, creating a world of high contrast. The land pilot takes his seat. He is an old man who has spent his life reading the sky. He looks up at the stars. He sees the Great Bear, the hunter, and the steady blue-white light of the navigator. He knows that as long as the navigator remains in its place, the caravan is on the direct path. The sound of the night march is a deep, continuous whisper. The sand under the wheels makes a sound like shifting silk. Shh, shh. The wagons sway gently, like ships on a calm sea. The men walk in silence, their eyes fixed on the silver path ahead. They breathe in the cool air, feeling it fill their lungs and settle their minds. There is no past here. There is no future. There is only the movement, the stars, and the rhythm of the journey. On the night when they reach the heart of the waste, the air begins to change. It does not become wet, but it becomes heavy with a strange, sweet scent, like the smell of lotuses in a stagnant pond. The oxen begin to toss their heads. The men look toward the horizon, and then, out of the silver indigo darkness, the white carriage appears. It glides over the dunes with a ghostly smoothness. The 4 white bulls are as bright as mountain snow. The carriage is made of ivory and silver, reflecting the moonlight with a brilliant, unnatural light. Inside sits the lord of the forest. He wears his emerald robes, his lotus wreath, and his clothes are dripping with water. He looks like a being of pure refreshment, a living promise of an end to the heat. The demon approaches the wise merchant. He speaks with a voice that is like the sound of a hidden spring. "Why do you toil so, wise one? Why do you carry these heavy jars? Look at the sky. The rain is coming. Just ahead, the forest is waiting for you. The grass is emerald green. The pools are full. Pour out your water jars. Lighten your wagons. Why carry a burden when the world is ready to give you everything you need? Look at my clothes. I have just come from the rain." The wise merchant stops his caravan. He does not look at the Lord's wet clothes. He does not look at the white bulls. Instead, he tilts his head back. He looks at the navigator's star. It is bright, sharp, and clear. There is no mist around it. There is no haze in the sky. He feels the wind on his face. It is a dry wind, a wind that carries no scent of damp earth. He looks at the ground. The sand is dry and loose. He speaks to his men. His voice is like a grounding cord that holds them to the earth. Do not listen to this traveler. Has any man here felt a drop of rain on his skin? Has any man seen a cloud in the sky? Has any man heard the rumble of thunder? No. The sky is as clear as a polished jewel. This man is not a lord of the forest. He is an illusion of the waste. He wants us to throw away our life for a ghost. We shall keep our water. We shall keep our jars. We will march forward with the weight we have chosen, for that weight is our safety. The demon realizes he cannot trick the wise merchant. His smile fades, and for a moment his eyes glow with a cold, hungry light. Then he turns his carriage and vanishes into the shadows of the dunes. The caravan moves forward. They do not rush. They do not panic. They maintain the same steady, rhythmic pace. A few leagues further, they find the circle of wagons. The wise merchant halts the caravan. He walks into the center of the first merchant's camp. The silence here is profound. The 500 wagons stand in a great, broken circle. The silk is still there, beautiful and shimmering in the moonlight. The gold is there. But the jars are all shattered. The ceramic shards glint like broken glass in the sand. The men and the oxen are gone, leaving only the memory of their folly. They spend the night in the shadow of the fallen caravan. The wise merchant sits by a small low fire. He watches the embers. He thinks about the young merchant. He does not feel superior. He feels a profound, quiet compassion. He understands that the difference between the two of them was only a single moment of attention, the choice to look at the stars instead of the lotus. When the sun rises, the wise merchant's men begin to work. They take the finest silks from the abandoned wagons. They take the most precious spices and the heaviest bars of gold. They leave behind their own common goods, trading weight for value. They fill their wagons with the riches of the desert, and they continue their journey. They cross the remainder of the waterless waste without losing a single ox, without breaking a single jar, and without losing a single man. When they arrive at the city on the other side, The people marvel at the quality of their goods. The wise merchant sells his cargo for a fortune, but in his heart he knows the profit is not the gold. The profit was the journey itself, the discipline of the path. Now, let us return to the Jetavana Monastery. The Buddha has finished his story. The night is at its deepest point. The 500 followers sit as still as statues. They realize that they are the travelers. They realize that the false teachers they once followed were the lotus-clad demons, promising easy rain while the desert was still dry. The Buddha looks at them and says, "That young merchant, so eager to find the easy way, he was the man who stands before me today as the leader of your sect. And the wise merchant, the one who watched the stars and kept his jars full, he was I." The lesson is simple, yet deep as the ocean. The true path is not the one that promises the most comfort. It is the one based on what is real. Think of your own life. Think of the water jars you carry, your discipline, your kindness, your truth. Do not pour them out because a stranger promises you an easier road. Hold your water, watch your stars. Stay on the path that you know to be solid beneath your feet. He stands up slowly, his saffron robes rustling like the wings of a night bird. He retires to his cell, leaving the followers in the silver light of the moon. The 500 followers feel a great weight lift from their shoulders. They realize that the direct path is simply being present, being wise, and being still. The monastery is now dark. One by one, the monks and the followers bow and depart into the night. Their footsteps are silent on the grass. You are there with them. You are lying on the edge of that ancient grove. The story is no longer a sequence of events. It is a feeling of safety. It is the knowledge that the wise merchant is still out there, watching the stars, making sure the path is clear. Think of the wagons of your own mind. Imagine unhitching the oxen. They are tired, and they deserve to rest. Feel them lie down in the soft, cool grass of your imagination. Imagine the heavy wooden wheels coming to a complete stop. The axles are silent now. The iron rims are cool. The desert is far away. The city of Benares is a memory. The only reality is the darkness behind your eyelids and the soft, steady rhythm of your breathing. In and out. In and out. Like the tide of a distant ocean. Like the wind in the highest branches of the banyan tree. You have kept your water jars full. You have stayed on the path. You have reached the oasis. There is nothing left to guard. There is nothing left to decide. The stars are fading now. They are being covered by a soft velvet mist of sleep. The colors of the world, the gold of the sand, the blue of the lotus, the saffron of the robes, are all dissolving into a single, peaceful shade of gray. You are drifting. You are swaying. You are moving with the caravan of the night toward a place where there are no journeys, only rest. Listen to the silence. It is not empty. It is full of the wisdom of the earth. It is a silence that tells you that you are safe. It is a silence that tells you that you are exactly where you need to be. The wise merchant is watching. The stars are shining. The desert is still. Sleep now, sleep, sleep.